Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 29th of August. Today we have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. First of all, I would like to say that the Ukrainian counter-offensive operation has started. This operation started this morning all along the front line from a small town by the name of Alexandrovka till the north part of Kherson district, near the Novovorontsovka. There were very heavy clashes all along the front line. This morning, the first update we got was from the town by the name of Stary Sukhistavok, this one. A few hours ago, the Western sources map even show us the blue flag upon this area, trying to say that the Ukrainians took control over this town. Later, we got some updates from the Ukrainian authorities. They were asking the media not to show and not to talk about the Ukrainian counteroffensive operation, because sometimes with such things the media shows the Russians the real dispositions of the Ukrainian forces. So that's why I suppose the Western source map removed this blue flag upon this town, trying not to show the real situation in this area and not to show the real towns that was taken by the Ukrainians. But if we take a look at this town, it's not a very small town. The Western source map even doesn't show us the buildings, just small roads. If you take a look at the Russian sources map, you're going to see that it's a very small village, just one street and a few buildings in this area. But the Ukrainians announced that they got control over this town and that they managed to do some breakthrough in this area. If you take a look at this entire area at Kherson district, you're gonna see that there are a lot of icons like tanks, like fire, like soldiers, like stars, like some planes, aircraft, so on. So as you can see, the situation all along the front line says that there is a counter-offensive operation. And now let's try to discuss what did Ukrainians during this day. If we take a look at the Western sources map, first let's build in arrows and so on, and trying to understand the Ukrainians' directions. If we are talking about, by the way, let's start first of all from the report of Ministry of Defense, because it's very important updates, and this was like the beginning of this counter-offensive operation. The Russians are saying that during the previous hours they attacked small town Novovorontsovka that located on the north of Kherson district, this one. By the way, the Ukrainians started some offensive operation from this town, so the Russians attacked right before the Ukrainians started any offensive operation in this area. Another important attack was in the town by the name of Marganets, this one. The Russians are saying that as a result of attack on the town Marganets, the Ukrainians lost around 100 soldiers, and that was national battalions Azov and Aidar, so 50 Azovs and 50 Aidars. The Ukrainians are using this area for one purpose: to shell the Energodar, the small town Energodar, and to be precise, the Zaporozhye power plant. Using these two towns, Nikopol and Marganets, the Ukrainians are shelling this area, and we know about this situation, and it's very dangerous situation, by the way. Another important update are coming from this Novovorontsovka. If we take a look at the map of this position, you're going to see that this area is under responsibilities of 60th Motorized Brigade, this one, and the Russians are saying that as a result of this attack, the Russians destroyed up to 70 soldiers and something around 14 armored vehicles. That's a lot right before the counter-offensive operation. If we are talking about the Ukrainians, their main goals and their main targets were Novokakhovka. As you can see, this area is under very heavy fire. The Ukrainians destroyed, or at least they're saying that they attacked some warehouse depot, ammo depot in Berislav. It's like the back of the Russians, their logistics center they're trying to use to supply and support their force on the front line. Also, the Ukrainians attacked the dam, the road, the railroad. Some Russian sources are saying that these roads, railroad and regular road, are no longer able to valid for using, so you are not able to use them. Furthermore, the Ukrainians are saying that they managed to attack some barracks of the Russians in Novokakhovka, some depot and so on. Furthermore, if we're talking about the Russians, they reported about evacuation from this town. So they started evacuation of civilians, of locals, just to be on the safe side. Furthermore, we got more updates about attacking on Antonov Bridge in these days. So the Ukrainians, they tried to stop any movement, any supply support using these roads. The only one way how the Russians can supply this area is just using the pontoon bridges and some boats that are crossing, moving between two sides of this river. So this is the only thing that what the Russians can do in this situation under very heavy fire. Of course, artillery duels, and I suppose that the Russians are trying to spot the artillery system of Ukrainians on the front line, but this is the situation. If you take a look at the south Syria near Alexandrovka, you see that there is no icons, but the some Russian sources are saying that Ukrainians were trying to attack in the south in the direction of Alexandrovka. So let's add the first icon, first arrow. This was the first destination of attack. By the way, according to the Western sources map, you see that Alexandrovka is still considered as the area under Ukrainian control. But this town, according to the Russian sources map, is under the Russians, and if we take a look at the map of this position, this map shows the same, that this town is under Russian control. So the Ukrainians, that was the first line of attack, and the Ukrainians were trying to crack this area from this night till the 2 p.m. of local time. But they were defeated, and with losses they were forced to move back on their position. I don't think that was some kind of the main line of attack. I suppose that was some kind of pin attack to pin down the Russians in this area, and the most important, to force the Russians to move their reinforcement and to relocate their artillery, just to help the Russian forces in this area to suppress and pin down the Ukrainians who were in offensive operation. Later we got update that Ukrainians were trying to attack in these two directions from Posad-Pokrovska on the line, and they were attacking on the line between Kiselyovka and this Centralnaya, Vavilova, Lyubimovka in this area. If we take a look at the Russian sources map, there is an icon of that counter-offensive attack, and the Russians are saying that in this direction the Ukrainians were using few tanks. That in this direction the Ukrainians were defeated, and they lost something around 10 soldiers and up to 2 armored vehicles were defeated, and they moved back in this position. The real timings of this battle, there were no information about that, but I suppose that it was the same timings for these attacks. The main idea of the Ukrainians in this area were to force the Russians to change their focus, artillery focus, what's the most important, and to force them to attack this area. Furthermore, the Russians, as soon as the Ukrainians started their offensive operation, the Russians started shelling the bridges in Nikolaev. To be more precise, if you take a look at the Russian sources map, this one, they attacked this bridge. As you can see, there are few bridges in this area, and as you see, the Russians attacked not that bridge that connects, let's say, Odessa region with Nikolaev region, but they attacked the bridge that connects the north and the south part of Nikolaev. For me, it's a very interesting target of attack, because I'm not sure about the reason why they're doing this. Maybe the reason why the Russians decided to use this bridge as a target because there is an airport in the north of Nikolaev, and maybe the Ukrainians are using this road just to support and supply the offensive operation in the south. So that's why the Russians decided to destroy and to force the Ukrainians to make a big hook, like to do like this or something like this, but for now I'm not sure about the real reason. Furthermore, the Ukrainians tried to regain the town by the name of Blagodatnoe. This is the town that the Russians took a few days ago. It used to be Komsomolska, the previous title of this town, before the 2014. According to the Russian sources, they're saying that the Ukrainians also lost some soldiers in this area. They were trying to encircle this area, but they were defeated. Furthermore, the Ukrainians tried to attack from 3 directions: from Partizanska, from the middle one part, from Kvitnova, and so on. Also, the Russians are saying that in the area of Kvitnova, they managed to shut down few helicopters, or at least one transport helicopter in this area. Also, if you take a look at the Russian sources map, they're showing that in the area near Posad-Pokrovsk, they managed to shut down 2 Su-25 of Ukrainian forces. Yes, and they also are saying that they managed to destroy some there were, like, in this area there was a counter-offensive operation by the Ukrainians, and they used around 8 armored vehicles, up to five tanks, and of course the infantry. But all these forces were attacked by the Russians' MRS systems, and they were forced to retreat. So now we discussed Blagodatnoe as well. The Ukrainians were trying to encircle, but were defeated and were forced to retreat. Furthermore, the Russians attacked the headquarters in Partizanskaya, so they managed to hold this position. Now we are moving to direction of Blagodatnovka, this town. As you can see, this is the area. This is the only area where the Ukrainians have their bridgehead on this side of the river Ingulets, this one. And the Ukrainians decided to improve their bridgehead, and they attacked. Mainly, they were attacking in two directions. The first one, they were trying to establish control over Sukhoy Stavak, and as we discussed at the beginning of this video, they managed to do this. And another attack, the Ukrainians were trying to cut Blagodatnovka from the supply. So they tried to cut this small island, this small town, and some Ukrainian sources and some Russian sources confirms that the Ukrainians couldn't cut this area, but at least they established fire control, and now the Russians, we can say, in Blagodatnovka is in operational encirclement. At least that was some kind of information, no 100% confirmation, but anyway, that was the thing that Ukrainians were trying to do in this area. Another important update are coming from the north. There is also very important difference between the Western sources map, between map of disposition and the Russian sources map. According to the Western sources map, as you can see, these towns like Vysokopolye, Olgina, Novovoznесенskaya, these towns is under Ukrainian control. If we take a look at the map of disposition, you're going to see totally the opposite picture. At least Vysokopolye is still under Ukrainian, but Olgina, this small back, you see Arkhangelskaya, Zarechная, these towns is under Russian control. On the Western sources map, Arkhangelskaya just, and this area is under Ukrainian control. And if we take a look at the Russian sources map, you're going to see that Vysokopolye, Olgina, Arkhangelskaya, Novovoznесенskaya, these towns is under Russian control. So the Ukrainians on this front line were trying to do one important thing. There were very heavy clashes for this small town by the name of Vysokopolye. The Ukrainians tried to attack in this area in two directions. The first one from the north in direction of Olgina, and the second one from Velika Kostромka in direction of Potemkina. They would try to attack Vysokopolye to encircle the Russians in this area. If we're talking about the Russians, Vysokopolye, let's say it's the Ukrainian Pesky, but from the Russian side. It's very fortified positions. The Russians are there and they don't want to leave this area. They are not planning to evacuate or something like this. So it's some kind of fortification that the Ukrainians faced in this counteroffensive operation. They were trying to crack this net since maybe for 2 months in a row, but they couldn't do this. Sometimes they got some success, some achievements, but later they were defeated and were forced to move back on their basic positions, let's say. So the Ukrainians were trying to attack this area with in two ways. If we're talking about the area between Koshovoye and Olgina, about this direction, like on the west side from Vysokopolye, according to the Russians, they are saying that in this attack the Ukrainians were using 10 tanks and of course with support of infantry, but they couldn't do anything. They were defeated and they were forced to move on their basic positions. And the most important direction in all this counteroffensive operation was direction from Novovorontsovka, as the Russians are saying, in direction of Dutchany, this one. So this is the global attack that Ukrainians were trying to create. And if we're talking about these directions, let's just repeat one more time. If we're talking about this area, there is no numbers near Alexandrovka. If we're talking about the middle part in Novopokrovsk, as I told you, five tanks, around 8 armored vehicles and infantry. If we're talking about Blagodatnoe, 2 armored vehicles were destroyed, up to 10 soldiers were killed. If we're talking about this area near Sukhoy Stavak, the Ukrainians are saying that there is no even numbers about the soldiers, but anyway, Maybe there was few groups or something like this, but I suppose that soon we're going to receive some updates. If we're talking about Vysokopolye from the west side, just like 10 tanks and infantry. And if we're talking about, let's call it the main direction, Novovorontsovka in direction of Ducheny, this area is under responsibility of 16th Motorized Brigade. If you remember, we talked that this 16th Motorized Brigade was reinforced heavily with in-laws, with tanks and so on, so it's very powerful fist. There are Polish 272 tanks in this area. So the Russians are saying that if we're talking about this area, the Ukrainians were attacking using one tank battalion and 2 infantry battalion. So if we're talking about this area, the Ukrainians uses around 1,500 soldiers in this direction, and their main target was Ducheny, this town. The main target wasn't Ducheny. The main target of the Ukrainians was to establish the bridgehead on this bank of this river, of Dnieper River. So they were trying to do something like this just to have position on the river, and with help of this they will be able to at least to cut the road that connects Energodark with the big land, and using, let's say, boats, because as you know, the United States of America brought a lot of boats for the Ukrainians, and maybe they were trying, maybe with this control they will be able to cross this river and to start some sabotage and commando operation on this bank of the river. But anyway, according to the Russians, let's say at 7 p.m. of local time, the first attempt of Ukrainians of their counter-offensive operation were defeated by the Russians. The Russians are saying that the Ukrainians had very heavy losses in tanks, in armored vehicles, in infantry, and so on. The only progress the Ukrainians had during the day that they took control over a small street in the field. But anyway, we need to understand that that was just the first day of counter-offensive operation. And to tell the truth, the result is amazing. I'm not saying that the Ukrainians managed to destroy a lot of Russians and so on. They had a lot of losses, but the thing is that everybody understands that if Ukrainians start any counter-offensive operation, they will have a lot of losses. So it's not the goal for the Ukrainians to keep their soldiers, to save their lives. It's not a problem. The Ukrainians in this area are acting as the Soviet Union during the Second World War, and they don't count their soldiers. Their main goal is the territory expansion, to take control over as much as possible territory, to cut the Russians, to split them, and so on. So we can say that the first day was very interesting from the Ukrainian side. They had a lot of losses, but the main thing that they managed to start anything. And now let's discuss why the Ukrainians decided to start this counter-offensive operation. As I understand, as I see, there is like few reasons. But one of the most important is that on the 8th of September, there is a meeting between the Ukrainian vendors who supply and support the Ukraine with ammunition, shells, and vehicles, tanks, and so on, whatever. So as I see, the Ukrainians, they need to show their sponsors that they are able to do something. Because if they are not able to do anything, why do the vendors need to provide the Ukrainians modern weapon? But it's now it's like 29th of August. We have like few weeks before this meeting, so I suppose that Ukrainians, they need a result and they need to show at least media victory in this area. And if they are able to establish control over a few towns, that would be very nice before this meeting. This is the first reason. The second reason is, of course, that on the 11th of September, the Russians are planning to start referendums in this area, and as a result of these referendums, the Russians are planning to take to Kherson district and Zaporozhye district as a part of Russian Federation. This is the second reason why the Ukrainians need to start this offensive operation, trying to let's say, to scare the civilians in this area and not to allow them to, not just to allow, but just to scare them and to force them not to join these votings and so on, not to be a part of these things. And of course, the third reason, the most important reason why the Ukrainians started this counteroffensive operation is that we discussed yesterday, that the Russians moved their third military corps to Rostov-on-Don, and now the Russians need to decide where they're planning to move this corps, or in direction of Donetsk. With help of this, they will be able to crack Donetsk, and they will be able to encircle and to complete Donbas Arc operation. And as you can see, the Ukrainians want to force the Russians to move this third military corps in direction of Kherson. So that's why they started this counteroffensive operation, as they did before, when the Russians started the same operation, offensive operation in Avdiivka and so on. They need to force the Russians. They don't want to allow the Russians to move this corps in direction of Donbas Arc operation. They want to force them to move this corps in this area. So this is the most important reasons why the Ukrainians started this offensive operation. Another important update about other areas is that the Russians, according to their information, today they gave us, let's say, the final confirmation, the fact that the Russians took control over Kadema, this small town Kadema. Yesterday was like a geo update that the Russians were somewhere in the middle part, and this morning we got update that the Russians managed to establish control over entire Kadema, and that's it. So according to this update, we can say that the Russians controls Kadema, Dacha and Zaitsevo, so we can say that the Western sources map is not updated, and the real situation, the front line, is as you can see on the screen. So this is the area that is under Russian control. And now the Russians on this area are able to develop their offensive operation in direction of Kurdyumovka, from Kadema in direction of Nikolaevka, Другая Nikolaevka, and also after that they will be able to proceed their offensive operation in direction of Kurdyumovka. So the situation in this area is critical, but we know that Ukrainians have a lot of forces there. They are able to move more and more soldiers on the front line, and the movement in this area is not very fast. We can say they are very slow, but anyway, this movement is controlled. We can say that it can be controlled by the Ukrainians, at least a few towns in a month. It's not like the entire Donbas Arc operation. So this is the situation for today. Another important update about this counteroffensive operation in the south. I'll repeat one more time. This is just the first day of this counteroffensive operation, and this night and tomorrow's morning is very important, because the Russians were trying to establish control over Kadema for months, so it wasn't like a day operation. So the same thing we can talk about the south of Kherson the same way. So the Russians don't need to relax. Yes, today they were very nice. They defeated Ukrainians along the front line. They managed to keep their area. They managed to destroy a few aircraft, few helicopters. There were no territory expansion from the Russian side. The Ukrainians are good as well. They managed to break their fear and started their offensive operation. The most important part is this night and tomorrow morning. If this night and tomorrow morning we are going to see the continue of this offensive operation, that means that Ukrainians are very serious. Until the 8th of September, that means that more than something around 2 weeks, we're going to see very heavy clashes and very heavy attempts from the Ukrainian side to change the picture in the south of Ukraine. But if tomorrow on this night there would be no offensive operation from the Ukrainian side, I must say that it was some kind of, a joke from the Ukrainians, that this day was a joke day. I don't know how else we can call this day. So let's wait this evening, this night and tomorrow's morning, and then we will be able to make more obvious conclusions about this situation. And that's it for today. Military Summer channel reminds you that we condemn any violence in Ukraine. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, and join my Patreon. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye bye.